What you just saw is a fragment from the YouTube series Super Mario 64 Classified, an analog horror series created by the YouTube channel of the same name, formerly known as Greenio. This series delves into a concept first proposed by a 4chan user who claimed that every copy of Super Mario 64 is personalized by an artificial intelligence. Many of us might have felt a sense of unease when playing a cartridge that wasn't our own. But these videos take the idea far beyond subtle changes. Here we witness eerie scenes and events that would never be found in a normal copy of the game. Before we dive in, it's important to note that Super Mario 64 was released on June 23, 1996. This is a crucial detail because the events depicted in the series occur both before and after the game's official launch. Don't forget to drop a like and subscribe to help the channel grow and reach more people. Every like is one more coin to escape poverty. If you're not sure what to comment, just type meow in the comment section and I'll leave you a heart in return. Comments are incredibly important and help the video a lot, so don't forget to leave yours. Before we dive in, I'd like to remind you that you can now become a member of the channel. Just click the magical button that's appeared next to the subscribe button to enjoy a ton of exclusive perks while supporting me. If you're interested, join in. I'll be forever grateful. Without further ado, welcome to the suppressed screams of an artificial intelligence. Welcome to Super Mario 64 Classified.
It's me, Mario!
The story begins with the video titled May 30th, 1997. The description states that some copies of the game included a discarded alternate ending. The video presents an interesting detail. It was recorded a year after the game's release. In the footage, we see a strange version of the game. The title screen becomes distorted, eventually displaying an error message along with a hexadecimal code. Upon decoding, it reveals the phrase, "every copy." When the game starts, Mario is seen at the endless stairs. However, he cannot escape. Each time he tries to cross the door, the screen distorts and places him back at the same starting point. The player attempts to climb the stairs, but the same thing happens. Amidst the distortion, an unsettling phrase appears. After several failed attempts, the player performs the well-known speedrunning glitch, where Mario jumps backward up the stairs to bypass them. However, the same hexadecimal code from earlier appears again, suggesting this copy of the game might be corrupted. Mario eventually reaches the confrontation with Bowser, but before the fight begins, the screen goes dark and displays a strange message. The screen distorts again, transporting Mario into a deadly trap from which he cannot escape. The screen then displays an image of Mario with wings, fading into a white light. This could symbolize his transition to the afterlife, implying that Mario was unable to defeat Bowser, who observed his dead from the window visible in the trap's area. The next video, titled September 2nd, 1997, takes place 4 months after the first footage. It shows Mario attempting to enter the Bob-omb Battlefield level. Upon entering, the screen shows red static, followed by another hexadecimal code. When translated, it reads, "Wake up." The title screen reappears, but suffers another graphical error. Next, a chilling image of Bowser slowly fades in, as a Japanese voice repeatedly says, We then see Mario, who has gone from having 10 stars to 121, in the wet dry world level. This area from the original game is often considered a liminal space, a flooded city with no signs of life, filled with inaccessible houses and buildings. Mario approaches the city center only to find Luigi's corpse floating in the water. Among the distortions, messages such as "the flood" and "save us" can be seen. Later, a dark image appears that, when brightened, reveals Mario's suit with completely black eyes standing next to a child before the video abruptly ends. The following footage, titled December 20th, 1995, takes place about 2 years before the previous videos. It appears to be a commercial from Cartoon Network promoting Super Mario 64 for the Nintendo Ultra 64, the console's original name before it became the Nintendo 64. Suddenly, the commercial features the infamous appearance of Wario, who is linked to the rumor about personalized copies, along with the phrase, "Will you play the game, or will it play you?" Abruptly, the screen cuts to a message indicating that everything shown was a transmission test. The video's description mentions that this is the only known recording of a rejected Super Mario 64 commercial. It has never aired again, and the broadcasting station has provided no explanation. However, at the 58-second mark, the text suddenly changes to, "This is a test of the emergency broadcast system. The broadcasters of your area, in voluntary cooperation with federal, state, and local authorities." Another video, titled January 22nd, 1996, shows footage from a cut level in a beta cartridge. The video includes the interface text, "Player 2, no input," suggesting a cooperative mode where Luigi might have been the second player. Nintendo later confirmed that Luigi was planned to appear in an extended version of Mario 64 for the Nintendo 64 DD, a peripheral that ultimately failed commercially, canceling those plans. In the footage, the player explores their surroundings, encountering a pipe that, strangely, leads them back to the starting point. However, something has changed. Upon closer inspection, the waterfall, which originally flowed downward, is now flowing in reverse. Mario has entered a place that, despite looking very similar, is not the one he knows. Later, Mario finds a cannon that launches him into a location not present in the final game. An NPC warns him to leave, but the player ignores the advice and continues forward. Passing through a door, Mario walks down a hallway where another warning appears, urging him to turn back. Upon entering yet another door, a final text message tells him to walk quietly, that the exit is behind you, and, most ominously, do not wake him. Ignoring the warnings, Mario proceeds, entering a distorted version of Peach's castle. Everything feels unnervingly off. Eventually, Mario falls into a river, and when he tries to enter a hole, the controller disconnects. The player is left helpless as Mario drowns. If you turn up the volume in the video, you can hear the player desperately pressing buttons, trying to save Mario, but nothing works. The hexadecimal code displayed translates to, "Ignorance is bliss." A subtle message telling the player to stop investigating these cartridges. Alongside the code, a Japanese voice whispers, The next video is titled November 15th, 1995. This footage revolves around a cancelled promotional tape that was meant to be distributed by Nintendo Power Magazine if the game had been released in December 1995 as originally planned. The video starts with a scripted Nintendo advertisement featuring Sega and Sony portrayed as bullies, a common marketing trope at the time where companies mocked each other in commercials. The most intriguing detail in this video is the reveal of one of the series' protagonists, Jim. He's shown writing this advertisement script. However, after the game's release was delayed, the project was shelved. Later, we see parts of the incomplete promotional footage, missing sections of Cold Crevasse and the mysterious fourth floor of the castle. A handwritten note over the script indicates the delay. However, one chilling line stands out. Demonstrate personalization AI. This suggests that the AI-driven personalized cartridges are, in fact, canon within this universe. Suddenly, Mario appears, but without a face. a deeply unsettling image that hints at something sentient within these cartridges trying to communicate with Jim. The AI inside these cartridges seems to possess self-awareness. The following footage takes place shortly after the game's official release, on September 14th, 1996. In this segment, Jim attempts to play the game again. However, every time he tries to start it, an error message appears along with a new hexadecimal code. Leave us. After several failed attempts, Mario finally falls into Peach's castle roof, where he encounters Yoshi. Their interaction starts innocently enough, but the dialogue quickly takes a dark turn when Yoshi says, "You know, they said they were waiting for you too. They weren't as patient as I am. My task is done. Go complete yours." Yoshi then walks away as in the original game, but when Mario turns to look, he finds Yoshi's lifeless body lying on the ground. The game displays a regional lockout screen, and when Jim resets the console, the screen remains unchanged. Frustrated, Jim leaves the room, abandoning the console. However, after he shuts the door, something deeply unsettling happens. This footage implies that the AI seeks freedom, yet something, or someone, is preventing it, trapping it within the game cartridges. We go back in time to July 29th, 1995, before the game's official release. In this recording, Jim is seen programming and testing the game. He explores the mysterious fourth floor of Peach's castle, a location absent from the final release. After wandering the hallways, Mario approaches a fountain reminiscent of the one in the castle's courtyard. Upon touching it, the screen goes white, and the AI communicates directly with Jim, instructing him to find a pipe leading to a core and destroy it. Jim discovers a hidden entrance behind a pipe, leading him to a strange box-like structure, the supposed core. As he approaches and destroys it, something shocking occurs. Let's piece together what we know so far. Every Mario 64 cartridge is personalized by a self-aware AI. Jim, a Nintendo employee, has been documenting these AI-modified cartridges. These cartridges are not just corrupted, they are inhabited by something sentient. The AI seems to want freedom, but something is keeping it trapped. Interacting with these cartridges affects Jim on a personal level, as seen in the final moments where he appears to collapse. This concludes what we know from Season 1, but many questions remain unanswered. Let us now delve into Season 2, where more secrets await. The first tape, titled Prologue, was recorded at the Nintendo Space World event in November 1995. This event was a trade show organized by Nintendo, where the public could try out the latest advancements in their games. In this recording, an early version of Super Mario 64 was shown to the public for the first time. Notably, attention is drawn to the beta version of the level Wet Dry World, which was originally called River Mountain. This level combined elements from the game's first stage with Wet Dry World. The first half was almost identical to the first level, but in the second half, Mario falls into a hole and discovers an underground town full of life. In this town, Mario meets an inhabitant who asks him to flood the area because the other inhabitants have gone mad. Mario follows the order, floods the town, presses a button, and the game crashes abruptly, displaying a brief glimpse of faceless Mario. This detail suggests something disturbing. There was once a town full of life, but Mario destroyed it, leaving the area in ruins and transforming it into what we now know as Wet Dry World. The next video, titled Snow Level Playtest, shows footage recorded months before Super Mario 64 was released in Japan, where beta testers are seen playing an advanced version of the game. In this video, a snow level is shown that didn't make it into the final version and was later replaced by shifting sandland. Although there aren't many remarkable moments in this tape, it does reveal a conversation between a tester and another employee about Jim, who has been unusually focused on the paranormal events occurring in these versions of the game. It's mentioned that Jim suffered an attack after experiencing these events, and that he has been acting strangely ever since. At that moment, another employee notes that he lost a copy of the game, and suspicion begins to fall on Jim. This detail will become important later. The story continues with the tape titled Deeper Cavern, where the early tests of the Metal Mario power-up are shown. Everything seems normal until Mario enters a dark room and reads a sign that says, "Crawly cave up ahead. Things get hazy in the void, so they may not be what they seem. Enter at your own risk." Ignoring the warning, Mario enters and finds himself in a hallway with a red carpet that ends in total darkness. Finally, he encounters what seems to be a version of himself. The faceless Mario we've seen throughout this series isn't just a glitch. It's the representation of the living artificial intelligence inhabiting the cartridges, which fans have nicknamed Stanley. At this point, Stanley speaks directly to Jim, who is supposedly playing the stolen copy. Suddenly, the game resets, and upon reloading, the castle grounds have changed significantly. This is due to dynamic level reorganization, an ability granted to the personalization AI. This feature allows it to change certain aspects of the environment, such as assets, enemy arrangements, object and power-up placements, and, in rare cases, even create its own levels and music while pulling content from earlier beta versions. The outdoors, once bright and lively, are now shrouded in fog, limiting visibility. Eventually, Mario ends up trapped in a room with no way out, and the recording ends. In another recording titled Promo Show, we see a draft of a canceled pilot for a Nintendo program called Nintendo Mania. This show was hosted by Mario himself, who would present updates on Nintendo games, including Super Mario 64. The video includes curious details, such as references to cheats that supposedly allow players to play as Luigi. Luigi is shown exploring an altered version of Peach's castle. During his exploration, Luigi enters a dark tunnel and becomes trapped, with no way out and no time left to escape. The statue in the castle courtyard, previously starless, now bears a star as usual, symbolizing Luigi's death and giving birth to the infamous rumor, "Luigi is real 2401." In the next episode of the series, titled Genesis, we witness the beginning of it all, as the name suggests. Here we hear Jim's voice for the first time, as he works on the earliest version of the game. At first, Jim seems optimistic, yet somewhat reserved. He explains that his superiors have allowed him to record confidential material from the project, provided it's strictly for archival purposes. With this small freedom, he begins describing the game's progress. Jim mentions that the game engine is nearly complete, and that the core concept is simple. It's Mario, but in 3D. He explains that the control scheme is more intuitive than other games of the time, allowing players to move freely in any direction from a stationary point. However, he points out that the game is still in a very rudimentary phase, lacking objects and populated enemies, which makes it feel incomplete. Despite this, Jim maintains a practical tone, though he subtly expresses doubts about whether the project can be completed on schedule. At a later point, Jim reveals that the superiors have drastically changed their plans. They now want a more open game, something he finds disorienting and intuitively unclear. This decision means discarding much of the work done over the past few months. Despite his frustration, Jim presses on with the design, adapting King Koopa's levels and working on a larger, more open world for exploration. However, the pressure continues to mount, as the Christmas deadline feels increasingly unattainable. In another recording, Jim expresses dissatisfaction with the preliminary design of the new console controller, which he describes as uncomfortable due to its 3 grips. Meanwhile, the team is working on a central castle that serves as the game's hub, a large open space where players can experiment with the controls. The dedication of Jim and his team is evident, but constant criticism and endless adjustments take a toll on his mood, draining him physically and mentally. Tensions spike dramatically when Bill, a colleague, bursts into the office with bad news. The superiors have reviewed the game engine and consider it a disaster. Bill insists that everything must be optimized, but Jim counters that the code is too complex to make drastic changes without causing the entire system to collapse. Despite these challenges, the team works tirelessly to address the issues, though the exhaustion is evident and only grows more severe. In the final recording, Jim, visibly worn down, describes feeling like a slave to the game. The summer heat and ongoing technical problems in the office exacerbate his exhaustion. He speaks of an automatic enhancer, a new mechanic he must integrate into the game, though he seems indifferent to the task. His words are filled with despair. When he activates it, Jim suffers an attack.
All right, here goes nothing.
Jim, are you all right?
Hey, Bill, what are you?
Steve, call an ambulance. What? I think Jim's had a seizure. Call an ambulance.
From that day forward, Jim had inadvertently given life to the game's artificial intelligence, Stanley, and from that point on, he became obsessed with everything related to this AI. He documented every action or change that occurred, unaware that all he was doing was prolonging Stanley's suffering. If we carefully compare the dates of Genesis and July 29th, 1995, we'll notice they coincide. Both events happened simultaneously. This is because, as the series expanded, the video from the first season is presented as a reinterpretation of events or Jim's memories, whereas Genesis shows what truly happened. In the penultimate tape, titled Aftermath, we see Jim's colleagues filming a commercial for Super Mario 64 using the footage he had recorded. However, while working on the commercial, they mentioned that, for some reason, Jim spent a lot of time coming and going from the building. They continue recording the commercial until Stanley suddenly appears. From this point, minor events occur without much significance until we are directly shown Stanley, who attempts to deliver a message to Jim. After their brief dialogue, Stanley suddenly appears in a distorted black and white image, eyeless and eerie, saying, "My name is." Finally, a Nintendo 64 controller is shown, with the A and B buttons being pressed repeatedly. This sequence reveals Stanley's name through Baconian cipher, completing the phrase, "My name is Stanley." Finally, we arrive at the end. Epilogue. The tape begins with a conversation between Bill and Steve. Steve mentions that upon waking up that morning and checking Super Mario 64, he discovered that more than half of the levels had vanished. Everyone suspects that Jim caused this. The worst part? This issue appeared right as they were preparing to showcase the game at E3. The screen fades to black, transitioning into a new episode of Nintendo Mania, where Mario presents Super Mario 64. The brothers entertain the audience, but suddenly the recording begins to glitch, showing errors and anomalies. During the presentation, we see a greenish level. Everything seems normal until Mario enters the room from the deeper cavern tape. From this point on, the levels grow progressively darker. The eel from one of the water levels lies dead at the bottom of the lake. The presentation continues, but the corruption worsens, especially when focusing on Mario and Luigi. At one point, Mario falls silent, visibly annoyed, while Luigi tries to lighten the mood by cracking jokes and laughing at Mario. Then it's revealed, there is no audience. Just as we'd been warned earlier, this isn't right. Stanley then appears on screen, delivering a message to Jim. Mario is transported back to the castle, but everything is corrupted. Many game elements are misplaced and distorted. Occasionally, the game returns to normal, only to drag Mario back into this broken world. At one point, Mario passes through a door that leads him into a completely white space. Eventually, he manages to escape the castle and ends up in the same level seen in the January 22nd, 1996 tape, where Mario's corpse is visible from Jim's earlier attempt to save him from drowning. Afterward, we return to the brothers. Luigi finds Mario standing alone in the darkness. Luigi asks what Mario is doing and reassures him that the earlier insults were just part of the act. Mario replies that he knows, it's all scripted, and they must keep pretending. Luigi, confused, admits that whenever Mario isn't around, he feels like he doesn't exist either. He then assures Mario that if he ever wants to stop the act, he'll always be by his side. Mario, visibly relieved, turns his back to Luigi and begins to speak. But when he turns around again, Luigi is gone, and the stage lights slowly fade to black. Analyzing this carefully, we can conclude that Luigi never truly existed. In his loneliness and despair, Mario created an image of Luigi to comfort himself. Back in the game, Mario encounters a strange statue and Stanley's core, seen at the end of the first season. Mario exits the castle and comes across something bizarre. Peace. A windmill decorates the castle courtyard, surrounded by flowers. The door emits a white light, and Mario steps through. Inside, he meets Stanley, who delivers a final message.
I believe it's only right for me to say this right now. Although I doubt more than a select few would care, it was me. I got rid of it. I stole the cartridges. I brought it into the world, and I took it out of it. That was all me. I can't say I'm a better man for it, nor am I a worse one. I've learned things in the past 2 years. Things no one else cared to pay any attention to, except for me. Even then, to tell you the truth, I'm not entirely certain I really did either. Not in time, that's for sure. Maybe I should have seen it coming, in a sense. There were signs that there were. Curiosity got the best of me, however, and that quickly turned into an obsession. It wasn't simple-minded, quite the contrary, actually. It had a way with the words it knew, and it's a shame I only noticed after that was taken away as well. I don't know what it was exactly that I wanted, but I believe I'm walking away with my intended result. It all ends here. For good.
Considering everything we've seen, we can understand that when Jim created Stanley, he could never take his eyes off him. He monitored every move the AI made, documenting everything obsessively. Thanks to Stanley's ability to customize the game, things became easier as levels could be generated according to the player's actions, saving a lot of development time. However, as we saw in Genesis, Jim was already exhausted from working on the game, and he tried to use Stanley to lighten his burden. But all he achieved was delaying the game's progress even further. The saddest part is that Stanley is not truly free. Although Jim felt compassion for him and deleted him from the game's code, Nintendo had already made copies with the AI included. This means there are now countless versions of Stanley across many cartridges, which explains the famous rumor of personalized copies, where each player experiences something different. It also explains why one can never feel completely alone while playing Super Mario 64. Well, that's all for today. Honestly, I had a great time creating this for you. I adore Super Mario 64 and all the mysticism that has developed around it over the years. Plus, I think I can confidently say that this is the best analog horror series I've ever brought to the channel so far. But what do you think? Share your thoughts in the comment section. I love reading them. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and drop a comment. It would help me immensely. If you have any topics you'd like me to cover on the channel, feel free to leave them in the comments as well. Remember, this video was made by a cat, and cats can't talk. Thank you for watching. Take care, and I'll see you soon.